This particular group has a chance to be very, very special and historic.
Still, somehow that hate and that passion for this rivalry still
The
exists.
same schedule that they depicted us to be the last in the freaking conference is the same schedule that we're 8-4 on.
Not quite, my friend. Give me the Mountaineers, baby.
Neal has done exactly what he said he was going to do when the university entrusted him in this position. Trust the climb, give me a few years, let me get my culture in here, let me build the way I'm going to build.
Welcome back. It is another week of the Walkthrough Game Day Show. I'm your host, Schuyler. Callihan. That is my co-host, West Virginia legendary running back, Mr. Eugene Napoleon, number 33, here in Studio 33, as we like to say. But tough loss last week for the Mountaineers in the coal rush against Iowa State. Obviously, we'll recap that a little bit. But somehow, Gene, that was not the main topic of conversation come 48 hours later when Mr. Neal Brown took the podium and spoke to the media. So we'll talk about some of the comments from that, and we'll also dive into this week's game against Kansas State, what the Mountaineers need to do to win, some players to watch, and as always, we will make our picks at the end. So thank you guys for tuning in. Make sure you hit that subscribe button here on our YouTube page at West Virginia on SI. When we get to the pick'ems part of the show, make sure to put your picks in the comment section on YouTube. Go 5 for 5. You get that man's signature. So, Gene, let's go ahead and take it back. Let's dial it back just a little bit with that Iowa State loss, 28-16. As we mentioned in the postgame show, it felt like West Virginia had a really good chance in that first quarter to kind of control the game. I mean, they ate up over half of the first quarter before Iowa State even touched the ball. It was a long, methodical drive. You could see hands on hips already from the Cyclones defense. They punched it in. They get a stop. They drive down the field again. Looks like they're going to take a 2-score lead, and then things start to fall apart. Rodney Gallagher drops the catch on third down inside the 10, would have been first and goal. Okay, whatever. You lose it. You still have a chance to get a field goal, make it a 10-0 lead. Well, you hook the field goal, so now it's still a one-possession game. Iowa State has a chance to kind of survive that portion. They do. 3 plays later, they tie the game up. And I told you right then and there, that was where the game, for me, felt like it changed. And I feel like the momentum turned on a dime. I feel like the energy was kind of sucked out of the stadium just for a moment there. And it just didn't feel like you had a good chance to win that game because you had done so much to that point against a really good football team to kind of have your way, and you didn't really capitalize on it. Iowa State's a team that's very disciplined. They're tough to beat, and when they get the lead, they don't give it back up. They outscore their opponents 103-26 this season, Gene, in the second half. You're not going to beat them in the second half. You got to get on them early and often. They had their chances. They didn't do that. Your takeaways from that Iowa State loss?
Well, everything you said is so true, but here's the thing about that. It's not like that hasn't been stated before. It's not like you don't know what's coming. It's not like you haven't prepared and you didn't do the research and you didn't. So all of these things are factual.
Yeah.
It's not alternative facts, it's factual. So what surprises me is knowing all that information that you've gathered and you're looking at your team and you're going through your scouting report with the players. These are things that you have to be prepared for. These are things from a head coach down to the position coaches at every offense, defense, special teams, the whole nine. You have to prepare for every facet of a football game. And again, here's what gets me. I always harp on the coach because this is the guy that's running your program. This is the guy that's making all this money. This is the guy that you are saying, we trust you with the Mountaineer program. So when you have a game like that, who else is it going to fall on?
All the responsibility goes to his feet.
I can't fathom. There is no more excuses about this happening. You have to be prepared for it. That's what other programs do. So You mean to tell me Iowa State, and again, no disrespect to Iowa State, the Cyclones, they have a really good program, but historically, they're not West Virginia's program. They're not one of the 15 or 16 winningest programs in the history of college football. And this is why I don't expect West Virginia to go in a game like that and lose. I don't care if it's at home, if it's on the road, if you're playing them on Mars. Playing them. That roster is not a better roster of talent than what we have. But here's the key. The talent that they do have is being developed.
And it's not necessarily happening quite as much in Morgantown. And I will give them credit. Like, there are certain stories. Hudson Clement is a fascinating story. He was a walk-on, turned himself into a scholarship player. Now he's one of the top receivers. You have some of those here and there, but it's not across the board as much as Iowa State. And I would say in some cases, you look at Garrett Green. I think he's regressed as a passer. Yes, his completion percentage has went up, a whole 2.3 percentage points since last year. Great.
Yeah,
But to me, I think overall, he's kind of taken a step back from where he was a year ago. Jaheim White hasn't been as explosive. You look at some of the guys on the defensive side, haven't been near as good as what they were in years past. And I just don't know. I mean, Sean Martin's a guy who I think has got an NFL body, an NFL skill set. And I just don't think that his talent has been maximized in this defense. We haven't seen it
absolutely.
yet. I mean, there's cases like that all over. But I think the biggest issue coming from that game is you do not play good complementary football whatsoever. Neal admitted that. Like, when you did have the third down drop, you got to make the field goal. That's a special teams mishap. When that doesn't happen, your defense has got to then pick you up and get off the field, because even there, if you force a quick 3-and-out, or even if they get just one first down and you make them punt, you're going to have a pretty good short field to
Absolutely.
work with, and
Right.
your defense falls through there. It just felt like it was one thing after another throughout the entire game of bad example after bad example with complementary football.
Let me say this real quick about Jaheim White. Here's the difference when you are now the starter. Here's the difference when you are now the starter. When you're coming in and you're spelling the starter, the second string guy is always the fan favorite
Yeah.
because they're rooting for that guy for whatever reason, because they think that the first guy, probably, whether you like him or not, the second guy, yeah, that's your underdog. Yes. When you're the starter, now guess what? The scouting report, your name is on there as number one. You're the starter. So now we're gearing up to stop you,
Yeah.
period. It's a different mindset. Now, last year when he's coming in and he's spelling Donaldson, right? You're coming in after he done laid the wood and the lumber to some of these linebackers and even defensive linemen and some of these corners and safeties. They're making business decisions at that point because they're tired of hitting this big joker. And you bring in a change of pace back like White, who is all over the place. It's a little bit different. But
Yeah.
now when you're the guy that has to wear down the teeth of that defense, I'm telling you, it's a different deal. So I'm not so much upset with the fact that I expected, to be honest with you, him not to have the big explosive plays week in and week out, because I understand what the difference of that grind is. But howsoever, back to the coaches.
Yep.
Now you have to create different lanes and different plays and different packages to get these guys where they're playing at the optimum level. You have to get Green to a place where he's comfortable. Okay, let's start throwing some screens, easy completions. Let's start throwing some 6-yard out routes, 5-yard out routes, easy complete to get him in a rhythm. Let's start doing this. Let's start banging the running game to open up our passing game. In the mid-range game, let's do that to get him in a rhythm. These are coaching points. This is a coaching philosophy. This ain't just let him go out there and do what he's going to do and he'll find a rhythm.
Yeah.
No.
You got to help the kid out.
You got to help him get into that rhythm. And that's what I think, to your point, Schuyler, I think West Virginia is not doing the things 1 + 1 = 2. They're doing 1 + 1 = 4.
Yeah.
Because
Absolutely.
you're expecting something else to be there when it's not. And then the look on the face on the sideline depicts that. My phone was blowing up. Like, dude, what's going on? Look at him, look at him, look at him, look at him. What's going on? It's like, I couldn't. We have to do better, because if not, what I'm worried about this season can really get away from us rather quickly if we don't fix it.
And I think you made a good point about the usage of the backs, and maybe this is something that's being discussed. I'm not really sure, but maybe we start to see CJ kind of be the go-to guy earlier in games. And I'm surprised they haven't done this already, to where you get him more involved early and kind of go back to that game plan we had a year ago, where you lean on the defensive line with him, and then you bring in Jaheim, and that change of pace can really wear a defense out. Maybe they need to go back to that style of usage, and it maybe fits the two better. Maybe Jaheim is better served to kind of play, second fiddle, if you will, to CJ. And that's okay. They're both going to get their carries.
Yeah,
And one thing that I was like, man, that's a really good way of looking at it. So the other day I was talking to Hornets head coach Charles Lee, and he was telling I was talking to him about Brandon Miller, and this is kind of a similar situation. Obviously, Brandon's a big time star. Jaheim's making his way there, but he
right.
said in his rookie year, obviously he didn't coach him, but he said in his rookie year he was just a guy on the scouting report, and that's just kind of what he was. Now he's having to adjust to life, from just going from being a guy on the scouting report to being the guy on the scouting report. And that's kind of the same situation here with Jaheim.
Absolutely.
Last year he was just, oh, who's this Jaheim White kid? A little 5'9", 180-pound running back. Who is this guy? You see him on tape, he makes some plays, but okay. Now that he ran for 800 plus yards in such a short time frame last year, you're like, how do we stop this guy? Because he's a problem. So that's kind of a way to look at it too. Speaking of backups and the excitement for them, I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this, but I don't understand why Neal got so snippy with the reporter in the post game when he was asked about, did he think about bringing in Nico there late in the game. They were down 28-10. The game was pretty much decided. Even if you
Right.
do bring in Nico, it's not like you're hoping he engineers a comeback. I mean, obviously you'd like to see that, but it was so late in the game, it didn't even make really much of a difference. I thought it was a well-rounded question. Like, why not give Nico an opportunity? He had the opportunity the previous week and did well with it.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't see why not give Nico that opportunity. You're down 18 late in the game. I mean, if he's going to end up being a factor for you later on, perhaps he's going to need these in-game reps. Were you shocked that he didn't go to Nico there at the end of the fourth quarter?
No, I knew he wouldn't go to Nico there at the end of the fourth quarter, because the last thing you want is for your stud, your star, your number one guy to feel like, well, what are you doing? I want to play until
Even in a game that's decided, though.
absolutely. Because first off, to do that, that's not Neal's temperament.
Yep,
I have done that
that's
as a
true.
head coach. Yes, because I have done that as a head coach. Absolutely. I know the importance of, did you see what the Dallas Cowboys did?
No, I didn't. I
They
try
pulled
not to
Dak.
watch the Dallas Cowboys, Gene.
Right now, I may not anymore as well. They pulled Dak. They pulled Dak, sat him down. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's how poor he was playing. So, and this is not indicative of uh, Green playing poorly. What it is, it's what you just said. You want to get Nico quality reps in a real game, in a real fire situation. That's important for his maturity and maturation. But if you're not the guy that can handle those questions at a press conference, then how could you be the guy that's handling that type of budget in this type of program at this type of level? Because you have to make those kind of decisions. Those are CEO big boy decisions. And yes,
absolutely.
if I were the head coach, yeah. And this is not indicative of me saying you're not going to start next week, Gary. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is, let me get Nico in here, let him get a
And
quarter,
protect you, too.
you know, and so let's do this, because it's going to be better for the team in the long run that he gets these quality reps now.
That's interesting. That's not exactly how I thought you were going to go with that, but that is a good point. And so, speaking of fielding questions from the media, I know it's a couple days later in the week since this really happened, but I've already gave my spiel on it. I wanted to give Gene the floor here since he is a former Mountaineer and wanted to get kind of his angle on this. So obviously, Neal had some comments earlier in the week, and well, besides me just trying to kind of figure out how to summarize it, let's just hear from Neal right here, and then we'll get Gene's thoughts.
I get that they want to win, but what I would say is, did they have a good time? You know what I mean? Like, did they enjoy it? It was pretty good atmosphere. You know, I'm assuming they had probably had a pretty good time tailgating. So if they're in the deal for enjoyment, then I would come back because I looked at the weather. It's going to be nice again. It's a night game, and we need them to provide a home field advantage. We need them. I get they're frustrated that we didn't win. You know, we've played a tough schedule. You know, everybody that's beat us hasn't lost. All right, but that's no excuse. That's just the truth. And the games in our league are going to come down to the fourth quarter, and I don't think this one on Saturday is going to be any different. So we need them to help us. I do get their frustration, but I don't think it's when you watch our product. I don't think the product is something that they should be other than the outcome. Like our kids play hard. That was a really physical football game on Saturday. There's a lot of West Virginia kids out there spilling it out. And so there was clear strain, clear physicality. It was an entertaining football game. If you're a football fan, you're just watching that. It's pretty entertaining. We just didn't play well enough to win. And so I hope with that in mind, they would come back for another entertaining game that hopefully we can play better at the end and win.
All right, Gene. So, interesting way to deliver that message to fans. Obviously, it was not received well, and I think rightfully so. Your initial thought, feelings, as those words were being uttered by the head coach of the Mountaineers.
If I wanted to tell and I live, let's say, 2 hours away from Morgantown. I'm in West Virginia, but let's just say I live, okay. Let's say Charleston, okay. I'm not going to drive to Morgantown to come to a game and tailgate and be satisfied with the tailgating if we lose. And we lose the way we lost. And then you're going to come out and say,
did you have a good time?
Wasn't it a good atmosphere? Didn't you have a good time tailgating? What the? Man, listen. Hell no, I didn't have a good time tailgating because that ain't what I came for. Okay? That bothered me to the point of, again, and you know, listen, Schuyler, you know me. Everybody knows the love that I have for our program, our university, and our state, right? Period. That's Pop Warner-ish. That's Division II-ish.
You know what that is? That's like going to Ruth's Chris and getting so excited about this nice juicy steak that you're about to have, and it didn't turn out to be that good, but the green beans were good.
Come on, man. Okay, so that's a great analogy because what is that bill going to be? Would you pay that?
You ain't paying for the green beans, I'll tell you that right now.
Okay, thank you. If that were the case, I'll go forget the steak. I heard it may be good, may not be. I don't want the steak. Let me just get a side of green beans.
Yeah.
All right. I'll save my $120 on the steak and let me get my $18.50 portion of green beans.
People don't pay to go to tailgate. That's free outside of the adult beverages, of course, that you pay for and the food. But you don't pay a ticket to go tailgate. You pay a ticket to go see the football game.
You want the whole experience. But what you don't want is after the game, you lose the game, and then you almost get kind of like, that's a real slick way of you getting at the fans and saying, well, what more do you want?
Yeah.
Well, the whole atmosphere was good, wasn't it? Nah, my guy. No. That wasn't. This was outside of me coming to see my dear Mountaineers take that field and win a football game. Now, had he not said that, the scrutiny, because I read some of the comments, and once again,
they're bad.
My phone was going off with former players like, what the wait, hey, getting, probably spraining their fingers. Tweet.
Probably some words that can't be repeated on here too.
Cannot be repeated. But I felt some sort of kind of way about that because as a former player, and again, this goes back to the legacy of our program. Don Nealon would have never said that. Dana would have never said that. Rich Rod would have never said that. Bill Stewart would have never asked that question. Are you kidding me? It wouldn't even have been part of the commentary.
Yeah.
So how is it that and Neal can't be upset of the reaction that he's getting because you caused the reaction by making that statement, asking that bizarre question. Now, once again, when you're in there and you're in front of the mic after you lost the game that you possibly should have won, and in the fashion that you lost the game, man, put a coordinator up there and shut his mic off. Just roll Neal out. And I know he's the head coach. So you got to do the interviews, but come on, man. You can't. That should not have been said at all. And he's going to ride that probably for the rest of the season.
Oh yeah, it's not going anywhere anytime soon. There was somebody that I think it was actually Tony Caridi that put something out there on Twitter the other day, and it was something about there was a luncheon with Ren Baker, and the fans could come or the students could come and meet him and talk to him or whatever, and said this should be fun. Oh, you already knew what the comment section was going to be under that
Yeah.
with Neal Brown's comments of having a fun time at Saturday games, but
Hey, Schuyler, that's not going to age well for Coach Brown.
no, it's not. It's every single thing. Like, the West Virginia lost a commit earlier this week, and that has nothing to do with his comments. Didn't even have really an effect on what happened last Saturday. That was kind of already in the makings there. But the comments all under our article wasn't about like the specific recruit. It was about, hey, I guess he didn't have a good time at the tailgate, or I didn't have a good time at the atmosphere on Saturday. You're right. It's going to be something that it lasts throughout the entire season until he not. I don't know if he's on the hot seat, but until he finds ways to win games and somewhat fill this program with optimism again, it's going to be there. And it's unfortunate, but it is what it is. And I know there's a very, very small section, like I'm talking very minute section of the fan base that looks at it and goes, yeah, but he was trying to say this, and this. If you listen to the second half of the quote, that's what he was really trying to get to. And I'm like, yes, I understand that
Sure.
because he was saying like, yes, we do need the fans to come back and support us for the Kansas State game, but you have to know that you got to say things a certain way because once you open that lid, there's no putting the toothpaste back in the container, right? So
There is not.
once that first part was said, a lot of fans probably just tuned out the second part. That second part of the quote didn't help anything that he said at the beginning. So
Absolutely. No, you're right. And it's unfortunate because once again, you have to preface this by saying this is not a personal attack against the man. This is all in retrospect of football commentary and coaching.
yeah,
That's it. And I always say that because sometimes the two can be misconstrued. It's not a personal attack against him as a man. No, it's just in the framework of college football and he being the head coach of a major program. This is what comes with when you step into that territory. This is what comes with it.
Yeah. I mean, you're 3-16 against top 25 teams. That's a like a 15% winning percentage against ranked opponents. And it's not that Don Nealon won 75% of his games against ranked teams or Rich Rod won 80% or anything astronomical like that. But they were probably around that 30% range and or maybe even a little higher or lower, give or take a few points. But Neal's not anywhere near the same stratosphere as those two guys. And it's not like the fan base is asking for unrealistic expectations. Of course, there are going to be a few that think that you're Alabama and you're going to win the national title every year. But for the most part, they understand this is kind of like between an 8 and 9 win team on a consistent basis is pretty good. And occasionally you pop one and you have a really good year where you're in the national discussion. They have not been ranked a single week in the AP top 25 since Neal Brown took this job. Eugene, there's only a handful of other schools in Power 4 football that can say that they have not been ranked a single week, I think, and it's in the last 4 or 5 years. Not exactly sure the exact timeline. I'll have to double check. But those schools, hold your breath because you're really going to like this one. Rutgers, Texas Tech, and Vanderbilt. That is the company that Neal Brown keeps right now.
I can't even. Right then and there, you're gonna make me move out of the state of New Jersey. Right? That hurts.
Yeah.
Schuyler, that hit different. That hurts.
And your friend may be watching this, may be having a good laugh too.
Yeah. Listen, whenever West Virginia is in any way, shape, or form on any list that has Rutgers on it.
And Vanderbilt.
Look. Rutgers? No. That's it. Conversation stops right there. You can't. Do you remember at one point we beat Rutgers 80-0?
Yeah.
We're talking football, not basketball. 80-0. Now you're on the same list as Rutgers as in a Power 4 conference, haven't been ranked in an AP poll in 4 or 5 years?
6. Almost look, 6.
And look,
5.5.
Look, carry the one. Dude, that's disgraceful, Schuyler. Can't. Come on, coach. Come on, man. Mm-mm.
So speaking of losing to ranked teams, that is our trivia question of the week, unfortunately. But on the bright side, it's a look back at the last time it happened, in a certain way, that is. So this week's trivia question is: West Virginia has lost 7 straight against ranked opponents in prime time, obviously kicking off sometime at night. Who was the last team that the Mountaineers beat in prime time? I will ask Gene his answer when we return from the break. No multiple choice this week. We're going to make it a little bit harder. Each week we get into the season, so no multiple choice. I want the team. I want the year, Gene, from you. So making it really difficult for you. Think about it. We're going to take a quick break here. We'll show the highlights of the college football 25 simulation between West Virginia and Kansas State.
From Steve Slayton to Pat White to Pat McAfee, they love their Mountaineers in Morgantown. And in a place known for yan dogs and pepperoni rolls, probably some liquid refreshments, the Mountaineer faithful ready to go here in Morgantown. Johnson looking to throw. Makes his connection. And trying to push their way into the end zone on 3rd and goal. And he takes it in for the score. Touchdown, Kansas State. Dropping back, it's Green. Looking to buy time. Keeps it and gets the first down.
Getting the guy on the ground quickly. Really nice job by the defense understanding the situation.
Field goal is good. The field. Use the play fake, now to throw. Fires into traffic, picked off. And they'll drag him down after a good return on the interception. Didn't make him sweat at all. It's good. The 46-yard line. Grabbed over the middle. It's Brady. The kicker will reach for a 36-yard attempt. Splits the uprights right down the middle. And they'll trot off to the locker room after the field goal to close the half. They'll run behind the big guys on the right. Finds a crease at the 20. Touchdown, Wildcats! On the run, it's White. At midfield, he's got room. Movement here from the tight end. Off play action. Touchdown, West Virginia! Here comes the option. He'll pitch it. 17 seconds left. So this is going to be rife with drama and overflowing with pressure on this field goal try. It's good. They'll throw it on first down. If he runs this back, this game's over. Going the other way, and he's got room. He's at the 40. He's at the 20. He's in. A game-winning touchdown in overtime. The DB saw it. He thought, don't drop it, don't drop it. Then thought, don't get caught, don't get caught.
All right, so we are back here on the Walkthrough Game Day Show. That's Eugene Napoleon. I'm Schuyler Callihan, and this is presented by West Virginia on SI. And pretty cool stuff again. College football 25. It seems like we've been hitting a 1,000 batting average right now with how insane these finishes are. This one goes to overtime. West Virginia gets the ball first, starting to move it down inside the 10 or near that, and Garrett Green throws a pick six to lose it, unfortunately, 23-17. Let's see if the result's a little bit better in real life this Saturday. Not going to hold my breath, but we'll see. So before we dive into this week's preview, as we promised before the break, we'll get to our trivia question answer right now. So the question was, WVU has lost 7 straight against ranked opponents in prime time. Who was the last team the Mountaineers beat? And Eugene, give me your answer. Year, give me team. Who do you got?
2021, I'm going to say Iowa State, and I believe Iowa State was ranked 22nd in the country.
Oh, you were so close. You were so close. You're right. You're only half right.
Okay.
They did beat Iowa State. They were ranked 22nd.
Yes.
It wasn't in prime time. So the last prime time win that West Virginia had, you got to go all the way back, brother. This is 2 head coaches ago. 2009 versus number 8 Pitt. That was the revenge game where the Mountaineers hosted Pitt in Morgantown 2 years after the game no one likes to talk about, and the game-winning field goal from Tyler Bittencourt.
Yes, but you know what's so sad? I'm going to tell you what's so sad, and I think you know what I'm going to say. You just said 2009.
That's been 15 years, brother.
Come on, Coach.
A decade and a half.
Come on, Coach.
Yeah, that's unfortunate. So
Yes, it is. Yeah, it is unfortunate.
They will have an opportunity once again this Saturday as they host Kansas State. So speaking of which, let's dive into our players to watch for this week's matchup. For Kansas State, it's running back DJ Giddens. We're not going to try and dive into the weeds here. This one's just the plain out, flashy running back who ranks 4th nationally in rushing yards at 786 yards on the season. He's going to be a big-time issue. He's got 4 100-yard games. On the defensive side, it's Brendan Mott, who has been an absolute headache for opposing offensive linemen. He's got 6.5 sacks, which leads all of Big 12. And then on the West Virginia side, offensively, it's Brandon Yates. We talked about it in the postgame. We don't know what the yips were about in terms of his snaps. They said it was a little something with his hand that was bothering him. Maybe it was the tape. They've got to fix that issue because they got knocked behind the sticks way too many times. 11 bad snaps Neal Brown counted in that game. So does Brandon Yates bounce back? And then defensively, I went with Sean Martin, who, again, had a sack last week against Iowa State, has seemingly played a little bit better. They need a lot out of him, especially if TJ Jackson can't go this week, who's dealing with an injury and is going to be questionable for the game. So, all right, Gene, let's go ahead and break this down first, starting with Kansas State's offense and West Virginia's defense. Avery Johnson, really good running quarterback, probably the best dual-threat quarterback the Mountaineers have faced this season. As we talked about DJ Giddens, he's been electric. But, Gene, the West Virginia run defense has been much better over the last couple of weeks, ever since the bye week. They held Ollie Gordon to 50 yards. They held Iowa State to 2.9 yards per carry. They ran for 120, but when you run it 45 times, it doesn't look as impressive. So, what do you think about this matchup here right there with Avery Johnson and his legs, DJ Giddens, and that West Virginia rush defense?
It could be problematic. Avery Johnson is a beast. I really like this kid. There's something about the way he creates space with his ability to run and then throw the ball on the run, which scares me a little bit.
I think he's a more accurate Garrett Green is what he is.
Yeah, and now it's funny, I was going to say that. It's kind of scary in the way that their game is very similar. The problem that we have, that means you have to be disciplined on defense when you're playing against a quarterback like that. And then you have a stud back behind him That's the 1-2 punch that right now it can be really problematic Saturday night. We're really going to have to be sound on defense. We're really going to have to get them to the ground as best we could, as early as we could, because if the game plan is we're going to establish the run and run the ball down West Virginia's throat to open up our passing game, if that's their game plan, I don't know, Schuyler. It might be a long night in Morgantown.
Yeah.
Because put it this way, the reason why I say it that way, they have the cast that can do that. It's different when you think you can do it. No, they have the cast of characters that can do that, and that can be problematic if we're not sound and disciplined on defense.
Yeah, Avery Johnson is a stud. He's only a sophomore, and he's going to get better as he gains more experience. And unfortunately, he is a sophomore. He's going to be around for a little while, and the Mountaineers are going to have to deal with him in the future. Actually, I take that back because now with the expanded league, I don't have the matrix of the conference schedule all configured in my head just yet, but he's going to be a problem for teams in the Big 12. And fortunately, though, Kansas State necessarily really hasn't thrown the ball with extreme success. They're only averaging 189 yards per game. A lot of that, though, is because they're running it so damn well that they don't have to throw it as much.
Right.
But they are completing it at 61.7% clip. Avery's got an 11-5 touchdown to interception ratio. So they are throwing it well when they do throw it. It's just not enough, which makes me think this is going to be kind of a similar game to last week where it feels like possessions are going to be limited. I think it was 17 possessions last week between West Virginia and Iowa State. And when you unfortunately botch one of those early in the game, you throw 2 interceptions. That's 3 possessions out of your 8 that you just botched right away. You can't have that happen this week against Kansas State. A deeper look here at their numbers. They are second in the Big 12 in rushing at 241 yards a game. Talked about DJ Giddens and how electric he is. Avery Johnson has 306 yards and 3 touchdowns on the season. But, Gene, where they've been really elite has been in the red zone. They're 20 of 21. 15 of those 20 scores were touchdowns. That's third in the Big 12. And that's been somewhat of a sore spot at times for West Virginia's defense is not being able to get off the field. Last week against Iowa State, on end of down scenarios, third and fourth down combined, the Cyclones were 11 of 16. Kansas State on third downs this year is only 38.7%. However, they have the second fewest attempts. They don't get the third down very often. So what has to change this week for West Virginia defensively? Because it felt like they were getting, I mean, they did. They had 16 opportunities to get them to third or fourth down, and it was just conversion after conversion after conversion. What did you see was a theme in that game, or what do you feel like has to happen this week for that to change?
Well, I'm going to be honest with you. I think we have to get them behind the chains. We have to get them to third down, third and longs if possible.
Not third and twos, third and threes.
No, third and long, because third and ones and third and twos, you can really your playbook.
I mean, a lot of coaches, that's 4 down territory, no matter where you are.
And I don't want that to be the case this week. So you got to get it to you want them to throw the football third and long. You don't want them to hand it off. You want them to throw the freaking football because you may have a better chance because they don't throw it that often, unfortunately, because they don't have to. Well, Saturday night, hopefully we put them in a position where you gotta.
Yeah.
Because it's 3rd and 9, it's 3rd and 10, it's 3rd and 7, where you're not going to necessarily hand the ball off 3rd and 7. You might throw a screen, you might throw, quick slants or a quick out or whatever. I would rather our defense take the chances, let that be the chance that we take versus it's consistently 3rd and 1, 3rd and 2. I think if we put ourselves in that position, it's going to be a long night. I've seen this kid play. I really like what Kansas State does on offense, which scares me because if our defense doesn't come to play, it's going to be a long night. You know how Styles makes fights in boxing?
Yeah.
This is not a good matchup for us if we don't come to play defensively. It's just not. Their style of how they play offensively, really, it's like they're a counterpuncher to our defense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
And
agree.
that's what's scary. Yeah, we gotta put them behind the chains early where it's third and long. Um, I will feel more comfortable with that, to be honest with you.
I know they do some things a little bit differently in how they run their offense and how they get to certain looks, but I mean, when I watch Kansas State, it's kind of like you are watching West Virginia in some fashion. Like it's like the Spider-Man meme, right? Like you're me, I'm you, and that sort of thing. Because I watched their game against Oklahoma State. I believe that was the week before West Virginia played Oklahoma State. I'm
I
like, man,
believe.
this Kansas State, this team is going to be an issue, and especially with Avery, with the things that he can do with his legs. That's the big thing for me. The key for me defensively is can that secondary hold up and hold up on their guy long enough? Because it's different when you just have a guy that just sits there and back in the pocket, scans the field, and he doesn't have anything. He's going to throw it away or just check it down. No, no, no. Avery's not going to do that. He's going to use his legs to
Yeah,
create plays. And sometimes, Gene, you will even see him, even though the pocket's not really collapsing, he may just start to move out of the pocket to try and change the picture of the defense that he's looking at post
absolutely.
snap to try and create some more space. And I worry that that secondary is going to get carved up when he goes on the move because they haven't held up in the past. They've had some communication issues, as we saw last week.
Yeah.
I don't know what that's going to look like. However, Avery does have 4 picks in his last 3 games. He
Yes.
is going to throw some turnover worthy balls. You have to come down with at least one of those. And it sounds like we say it every week, but it's been a very big issue with this defense. How many interceptions they've had just go right through their hands this season? I mean, it's got to be at least 5. And
Yeah.
two or three of them could have been pick sixes. Even in the one in the backyard brawl would have been a 99-yard pick six.
Six. Yep.
So against the pass, I mean, are you more scared about what he can do with by creating and improvising more so than just him sitting there and picking them apart?
No, absolutely. Because to be honest with you, that's not his game. His game is extending the play with his legs.
I guess the better question is, do you feel confident enough in that secondary to hold up for that long?
No. But let me be fair.
I mean,
No,
I don't
no,
either.
no, let me be fair.
Yeah.
Any defensive backfield in the country would have a problem with his style of play
Yeah, that's
because
fair. That is fair.
he's going to do that to everybody. And that's what I mean by we have to be disciplined on defense because he's going to extend the play. He's going to change the trajectory of your defense when he moves inside and outside of the pocket. That's what he does. And he does it well.
Yeah.
So that's the scary part for me. I want him to be honest with you, Schuyler, I would rather him throw the ball than run, to be honest with you, because he creates bigger plays when he's running the ball than he does throwing it. Here's the problem. Could you imagine if he gets to a position to where he's comfortable with extending the play and then he starts dropping the ball over our defensive backs' heads because they're going to come up to stop him and he's dumping it over their head. Once that happens once or twice, we seem to get into a rhythm where we are susceptible to those mistakes.
Yeah.
That's kind of scary because then it becomes a consistent thing.
Absolutely.
So, yeah, that's a little bit scary for me.
Yeah, that's going to be an issue, and there are a couple of guys that, like I said, T.J. Jackson most notably is questionable for this one. So if he's not there, where does the pass rush come? I really don't know. He was the guy that filled in for Eddie V, who got hurt.
Yes.
He's still making his way back. They said, I think it was a couple of weeks ago, Neal said that Elijah Kinsler would be the next man up, who's a true freshman. Hasn't really played a whole lot. So you're starting to really dig deep into the depth of that defensive line. You're going to need guys like Sean Martin, like I said earlier, to step up and fill some of that production if TJ can't go. Flipping it over to the other side, West Virginia's offense, Kansas State's defense. We talked about it a little bit in the open there, Gene, with the rushing attack and how Jaheim just hasn't necessarily been the same back. He's had flashes of it, of course, really did so against Oklahoma State. Last week, just 12 carries, 46 yards. And if you take Garrett Green's rushing numbers out of this, they did not run the ball well at all. And between Jaheim and CJ, they had 21 carries for 63 yards. That's
Yeah.
very, very low production. And when you're a run first team, you got to have more than that. And this Kansas State defense, they're going to have similar looks to what Iowa State did. Obviously, they're not going to play the umbrella defense that just makes
Right.
it look like they have 9 defensive backs or 9 safeties back there, but they're going to have similar fronts. They're going to have some 3-down looks. They're going to have occasionally some 4-down, but they're going to really make it hard on you up front, much like Iowa State did last week. What is the key to springing that run game open again, like they did 2 weeks ago?
I really believe, start early and often. I really believe that, you know, it's hard when you are struggling up front. And because of the unfortunately, because of Yates and the snap problems, I'm sure that threw off timing with maybe what Neal really wanted to do in the run game. I'm sure because of the way we run our offense, a lot of that is so predicated on the perfect timing with the snap and, getting it to the tailbacks. It's that almost has to run almost perfectly in concession to really get your run game going.
Yeah.
I'm not going to deviate from that if I'm Neal, because I know how important that's going to be.
You have to run the ball.
You have to run the football. That's what it is. We are a run-first offense. So it's almost a challenge, to be honest with you, Schuyler, this week against, K-State. Listen, we are going to run the football come hell or high water, and that's what it's going to be. It truly is. This has to be a statement game, honestly. So there is no, we're going to deviate and do this. No, we're running the football. So if I'm him, I'm probably sitting in the offensive line meeting. We're running the football.
Yeah.
I'll go to the running backs in their meeting. We're running the football. Because if you don't bow your necks and make a statement now, when are you going to do it? And by the way, I know we didn't get it. This is a must-win game.
Absolutely.
Let's be clear. Let's be clear. Because if you don't win this game, it's hyperbole. I'm saying it. This is a must-win football game in Morgantown Saturday night.
You could say that
football.
every single week, but like legitimately, this is a must-win. Like you cannot afford to have your second loss in Big 12 play this early with so much season left ahead of you. Like I said, before the first loss happened, you want to avoid that first loss as long as you possibly can, because that way it gives you a little more wiggle room the later you
Yes.
get into November. You already got that first loss, and it came
Yes.
against the team that you're going to be competing against to get to Dallas. You have an opportunity again at home against another team that's going to be vying to get to Dallas. You can't have 2 head-to-head losses and have zero wiggle room the rest of the way.
You know what makes it even more okay? You're at home.
Exactly.
If you lose these 2 games at home,
Might as well
now you
forget
got to go on the road. Listen, you kind of put yourself behind the 8 ball if you lose these 2 critical home games. And here's the other piece: prime time. This is prime time. So, you got everybody around the country looking.
The atmosphere will be great. There should be a lot of fun. Too early, too soon.
Too soon, Scott. Good though. I mean, that was good. The timing and everything was good. The execution of it was good. But
we are in mid-season form.
Already in mid-season form. We have to win this football game, bro, and we have to establish the run to get it done, because you're going to have to take some pressure off of Green. I feel he's pressing much, in my humble opinion. I'm feeling like he feels the pressure caving in on him a little bit. And most quarterbacks do that. Most good quarterbacks do that because they care so much. He's playing.
Oh, and he's an ultimate competitor. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. He's playing with a weight on his shoulders. And a running game could really alleviate some of that pressure.
Yeah, and it's going to be tough because Kansas State is one of the best in the country, not just the league. They're averaging, listen to this number, 71.7 yards a game is what they're allowing on the ground. Colorado had minus 29 yards last week. Now, obviously, some of that was because of sacks and Don't even get me started on that because I cannot stand that they count sack yardage for rushing yardage. That's ridiculous.
Yeah,
I can't stand that. But regardless, they didn't run the damn ball well, did Colorado, and really has no one against this Kansas State defense. So it's going to be a challenge. The good thing is you're going to have a chance to throw the ball a little bit. Kansas State's allowing 268 plus yards on the or through the air, which is 15th out of the 16 team Big 12 league. They've
right.
got to find some of those explosive plays. This is a week, Gene, where I feel you can kind of get back to what you did maybe earlier in the year when you were going up against Pitt and you are able to run the football and you're also able to take some of the shots deep down the field. If they can get back to that, I feel like that's kind of the perfect recipe for this game. Obviously, you're going to want to run the ball. I don't know that
Right.
they're going to run for 140 in this game because this is a really stingy, tough defense. But
Mhm.
if you can run it enough and maybe you crack one of them loose and you can run for 100 or a buck 10, that should be enough to allow you to take some of those shots deep and convert because this is a secondary that has had some of its issues defending the pass. Same
Mhm.
thing like we just said with Avery Johnson. Garrett Green has to be sharp when he's out on the move and making decisions because we saw it last week against Iowa State. They had this really weird structure, and I don't know if you saw the defensive alignment and what they did post snap on that second interception. They had all of their pressure loaded to the right
Yes.
side of the offensive line. They
Yes.
knew that that's what they were trying to do. They had Wyatt Milam and Tomas Remak completely just standing there, not having anyone to block. They knew that they were trying to funnel Green that direction and put him into a bad spot because they had safeties, they had corners. They forced a tight window and knew that if they just flushed him out that way, there
Yeah.
was a chance that they could trick him into making a bad throw, and he did. So he's got to be smarter and more accurate too, but he's also got to trust himself and not be the guy that just says, I'm just rolling out to make a throw. Be the guy that you were against Kansas in that 2 minute drive. If it's not there, don't worry about throwing it. Run the
Yeah.
damn football. That's what he does
That's it.
best.
When you run an inverted back end with your safeties and your corners, and you're rotating opposite of where your defensive linemen are going, we ran it in high school. The invert defense is freaking amazing because,
And it's
yeah, you
tricky
can. It is,
because you're
but
like, why
because
is this so open? Why does this look like there's so much space here?
right, it looks that way for a reason, right? But it's tight windows. Obviously, it's small windows. It's getting in the quarterbacks, so it's passing lanes that you're taking away with that invert. I agree with you 100%. I think Green has to feel comfortable being uncomfortable
That's a good way to put it.
because he's going to have to settle down, take a deep breath. What's happening for him is this is what happens when you are that guy. So now, being the major guy, being the quarterback of a major Power Four program, you know what he's feeling? Now
Pressure.
you know what. Now you know what Major Harris felt like.
Yeah.
Now you know what Pat White felt like. Now you know what all of the great, Geno Smith, all of the great ones that was in your position and had to deal with certain scrutiny the same way you're dealing with it, because that's what happens when you are a starting quarterback at a major level program. It comes with the territory. So now you have to know game in and game out, there's going to be certain situations where you have to be comfortable in an uncomfortable situation, which means slow it
Calm
down,
down.
calm down, and just play your game. You said it. Have the confidence because he can play, man. Let me tell you something. You know how much I respect this young man's game. Like that's why I call
He's a
him Mr.
dog.
Green. He's a dog now. I respect his game. So calm down, relax, take a deep breath, and go out there and have fun.
Yeah.
Not in the tailgate, but on the field.
So now it's okay. Now it's all right. I see how it is. You've got the ability to just unleash it, but I've got to hold it back. Okay, I see how it is.
Listen, I told you, this ain't going to age well for Neal.
This may or may not be a running joke on this show for a while. So if you don't like it and you think it gets too old, well, too damn bad. Suck it up. It's going to be a lot of fun. Wait, I just did it again. Anyways, time for our fun part of the show, the pick'ems. So let's go ahead and dive right into it. Gene, you did it again. I had another crap week. I went 1-4. I am struggle bus city right now, just like the Mountaineers in prime time, baby. I am folding like a $2 lawn chair. So let's get this thing back on the right tracks. Let's go to the Big Ten, Nebraska at number 16, Indiana. Again, hey, there's another team, Gene, that typically isn't ranked but is. And they're undefeated in their first year head coach, by the way, who has West Virginia ties in Cignetti. Golly, that's just a lot of pain that just came out of the mouth right there, isn't it? So Nebraska at Indiana kicking off at noon on Fox. You know I'm a big Matt Rule guy. I've covered him for 3 years in the NFL. Was really nice, dude. Love him. Think he's a great guy. I like what they're doing. I like what they're building out there. Dylan Raiola, really young, talented quarterback. But I don't know that they're quite there just yet. I think they're setting the foundation right now. Indiana seems to have really kind of hit the ground running with their new head coach. They're at home. Big game. Big noon Fox will be there. I'm going with the Hoosiers.
Let me tell you something. Go Cignetti.
Yeah.
It's a nice setup, and you already know Matt Rule's my guy. But as you just said, I think he's a year away. I think Matt's a year away. Indiana's hitting on all cylinders, so I'm with you. Go Hoosiers. I think this is going to be a better game than people think, but I'm going with Indiana.
This is a really interesting game here. Number 7, Alabama, going to Rocky Top to take on number 11, Tennessee, 3:30 ABC. I've been back and forth on this one, Gene. The moment I put this one down, I was going, yeah, I'm going Alabama. Now I'm going Rocky Top. Now I'm going Roll Tide. Now I'm going Tennessee. I don't know what I'm doing. I still don't. I think I'm just guessing here. But I'm going to go with the Alabama Crimson Tide. I think it's just they're so talented, and for them to have 2 losses this early, even with Kalen DeBoer there, I just don't see it happening. Tennessee's going to it feels like they're going to lose one at some point. This feels like a good spot. And I think a lot of people are down on Alabama because of the loss to Vanderbilt, and they feel like, oh, Alabama's not what they're used to be. I still think they're pretty damn good. I'm going to go with Alabama on the road.
Now, see, now you're talking.
Oh, okay. I was a little worried there. I thought you were going to go with the Tennessee Vols and tell me I was crazy. Okay.
I had Tennessee written down, and then I came to my senses.
Ah, see, it was a toss-up.
It was a toss-up. So no, I'm going with Alabama, but that's going to be a great football game, man.
It is. These next two, I might, depending on my pick here, because I'm still kind of figuring out what I'm going to go with. But you might tell me I'm crazy. So let's go to the Big Ten. Number 24, Michigan. Number 22, Illinois. The Fighting Illini hosting this one at 3:30 on CBS. Brett Bielema has the Illini in the top 25. Again, typically not a school that gets in there, but they are. They're playing good football. Michigan, they're just – I feel like they're only number 24, and they've had the success they've had just because they have an abundance of talent. They're good in the trenches. They're good defensively typically. They have some playmakers. The quarterback spot has been an absolute disaster for them.
Yep.
This sounds crazy. But I'm going to go with Brett Bielema here. Illinois, believe it or not, has the quarterback edge. Luke Altmaier is a better quarterback than either of the 2 guys that the Wolverines have. It's a little bit of a down year for Michigan. Illinois, at home, I'm taking the orange.
So, yeah, I like Brett. Don't get me wrong. That's my dude. That's my dude. But see, here's where you start messing up.
Can I change my pick?
You should. If I'm you, I would. Now, my wife picked Illinois as well. I picked Michigan because you know what Michigan's going to do? Run the football.
They will. And this might be a 10-7 game. Both of these teams like they're on the ball.
It's going to be a close game, but because they know they're struggling a little bit at QB, they're going to run the football. And nobody runs it better than them when they bow their necks and say, we're going to run the football. I bet you their head coach was sitting in that meeting room with the linemen and saying, we're going to run the ball.
Yeah.
Simple as that. Yep. This next one is a big one here. This
is.
I can't wait to see a pick on this one. This next one, let's go. What you got?
Georgia and Texas, a big-time matchup in the SEC, a top 10 matchup, 7:30 ABC. Another one I've been back and forth on. This is a very serious slate of games this week.
Yes.
Georgia is really good. They've been good for a long time. Texas just kind of seemingly recently turned the corner. I'm going to go Georgia. The only two reasons I'm going with the Georgia Bulldogs here is because Texas is coming off a big win in the Red River rivalry, an emotional game, even though it wasn't close, 34-3 or whatever. It's an emotional game. They spent a lot of energy. Georgia has not played their best football yet. Texas, outside of Oklahoma, really hasn't had a big-time game that they were excited about, right?
Mm-hmm.
This feels like a letdown spot for Texas. This is a welcome to the SEC type of moment here, I think, for the Longhorns. So I'm going UGA, but I don't feeling too good about it.
Well, UGA is going to have to find another bone. Because, oh no, the Longhorns, and I don't usually, Texas for me, it's one of them teams where I can take them or leave them. This is a moment where they have to step up and say, it's not welcome to the, you kidding me with in Texas.
Technically, yeah. Yeah, you're right.
No, we're going to show you that we belong in the SEC. We've always belonged in the SEC. We recruit just as well as you do. Our money spends just as well as yours.
Yeah,
so
you damn right.
I'm going with the Longhorns. Everything is big in Texas.
Oh, man. Yeah, that's a tough. And this is also that time of year where I get a little aggressive because when I start to lose a little gain, a little ground on the standings, I start to take some shots. This week is a little bit of a shot risk taking there with Georgia and Illinois, but we'll see. So now the game that we're all here for, it's West Virginia and another primetime game for the second straight week against a top 25 opponent. We know the history under Neal Brown is 3-16 against top 25 teams. It's not good, but hey, at least a lot of fun will be had this Saturday between the Wildcats and the Mountaineers.
We've played a tough schedule. You know, everybody that's beat us hasn't lost, but that's no excuse. That's just the truth. And the games in our league are going to come down to the fourth quarter, and I don't think this one on Saturday is going to be any different. So we need them to help us. I do get their frustration, but I don't think it's when you watch our product. I don't think the product is something that they should be, other than the outcome. Like, our kids play hard. That was a really physical football game on Saturday. There's a lot of West Virginia kids out there spilling it out. And so there was clear strength, clear physicality. It was an entertaining football game. If you're a football fan, you're just watching that. It's pretty entertaining. We just didn't play well enough to win. And so I hope with that in mind, they would come back for another entertaining game. Kansas State, I think they're very similar in their style and approach to Iowa State. They're tough, physical, really disciplined football team. They're used to winning, you know, and they've had success on the road as well. And so they won their last time here. I think Coach Kleiman and his staff do a really nice job in all phases. You know, the good thing is when you have disappointing performance, man, you're able to come back out and play. And we got another quality opponent coming in here on a Saturday night.
All right, so it is West Virginia. It is Kansas State, another big-time showdown in the Big 12 in Morgantown, 7:30 Fox. Gene, I know I've been picking against West Virginia a lot, but this game feels like a weird game to me. Like, it just feels like it's going to come down to a couple of plays, a couple of bounces. A lot of those things haven't gone West Virginia's way. And it feels like every time that we start to bring up this, hey, Neal Brown's on the hot seat. Neal Brown's on the hot seat. It's like the team just responds and they find a way to win a game. Maybe they shouldn't win or you didn't expect them to win. But that's not going to happen here, Gene. I don't see it happening. I really don't. The way that they showed to be a flat offense last week has me really concerned. If they don't get things figured out offensively again, it's going to be a really long night against a really good football team again, and you're going to hear the same things from Neal Brown, not about the fun, but you'll hear about how he credited the other team and how they just lost to a really good team. So That's my pick. I'm going Kansas State, EMA, unfortunately. I can't put my faith in Neal Brown right now. He's got to earn it back.
And you know what? And this is so sad. This is so sad. And I do mean sad.
Uh-oh. Uh-oh. Uh-oh.
First time in, I'm with you, Schuyler. I have to admit,
snap. What? All right, we need to figure out the last time you're picking Kansas State.
I'm picking Kansas State.
We got to figure out the last time you picked against the Mountaineers and what happened in that game.
And I'm going to tell you why. It's what you just said. It has nothing. I just don't have faith in Neal Brown to go in prime time and get a quality win against a top 25 opponent that is a very good football team from top to bottom. Yep. Now, Schuyler, look, you ready?
Mm-hmm.
I just won the Academy Award for acting. You know good and well I'm going with the Mountaineers, man. Stop playing.
Oh, wow. You got me.
Of course I did.
Now, so we know at least where your head and your gut are telling you for this game, right?
Oh, no doubt about it. But here's the thing. My heart, dude, it pumps Mountaineer gold and blue. I can't go against my Mountaineers, brother. Even though I'm a football guy, you know that. I know on paper. If Neal Brown loses this game, then I may turn around. He might get a phone call from me. I'm just going to say that. Because at that point, I'm being looked at in my own house like, really? Here's a new saying from Tracy in my house. When things are, what we doing?
What we doing?
Like
you almost had me say what we doing when you picked Kansas State there for a second. I did not expect that. You tricked me, and that's what you're good at. So, hey, you know what they say? Numbers never lie. And you know what, Gene? That little number right there, if you can see it, the 3 and 16, if you can see through the paper there, that's Neal Brown's record. That's Neal Brown's record against top 25 opponents. So does he just say the hell with that and find the way to get it right? We'll see. I'm not putting my money on that. That's for damn sure. But we'll see. We'll recap it on Saturday. It's the walkthrough game day show presented by West Virginia on SI. That's Eugene Napoleon. I'm Schuyler Callihan. Thank you guys for tuning in. Make sure you smash that subscribe button here on our YouTube page at West Virginia on SI. Follow us on X as well at SI_WVU. And we will be back late Saturday night for the Mountaineer postgame show to recap the action between the Wildcats and the Mountaineers. Thank you guys for watching, and we'll see you Saturday night.
Let's go Mountaineers.